I've got something for you for moral support.
What's that?
I thought you needed one inside as well.
Keep calm and drive a Cummins.
Should I put it here?
Yeah.
Pride of place?
Yeah, create a little shrine.
There's a little shrine there.
Yeah.
To remind us, keep calm. With little money, lots of support, Kiwi ingenuity and good old blood, sweat and tears, we're creating a community expedition and research boat built and run by volunteers from around the world, because life is too short not to fight for your dream.
I took a stroll downtown this evening when I heard music echo through the night. The same old songs that I heard the night before. So I started running so I wouldn't be too late. I didn't think that I would ever see your face again, but I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong.
Do you want to have a look inside your engine?
I had a log.
What are you thinking?
Inside it, fine, eh? Inside is fine.
Yeah.
There's like slight variation. Where the injectors came out, the sleeve.
Yeah. I saw milky oil inside the injector, and I don't understand how the hell that can happen because there's no water anywhere near the injector. We've got to test it, eh?
You've just got to. It's just a process of elimination,
Yep.
right? You've got to be calculated with this. What's your strategy?
Well, once the head's off, you've got the ability to then do some proper testing. And once I've got a gasket set, I've theoretically got enough gaskets to pull every head off. But I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do this back one. But
so the solenoid
Yep.
being wound in
Yep.
could have caused the leak.
Yes, the fuel leak.
The fuel leak. The pump looks like it's fine.
Yes.
This showed up as a problem with
So-
the milkiness inside the
Yeah. So
injector.
when I pulled that injector, there was rust down in the injector, down beside it, and that's what made me go, hang on, something's going on there.
So you have to get them sorted then. You have to do
I have to roll it out.
But there's another question in my mind. At this stage, we weren't sure if the copper injector sleeves were the problem, so we needed to send the head away for pressure testing to confirm our theory. There's another issue, and that is, it's such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
I know it pushes us. If you lift the head and we send that off to get tested, I know that pushes us
Yep.
back again.
Yep.
But it's incredible fun. And it gives you so much security going forward.
Yeah.
And it really, in my mind, you have to be sure. Right?
Yep. We can't do this guessing. I also noticed an exhaust leak in the slip joint on this manifold.
Oh yeah, you're telling me you're thinking of.
So it's a 3-piece manifold, and so there's joints here, and you can see the gaps. Like it can.
So they contract and.
As the motor gets hot, cold, this can grow and shrink.
Yeah.
These don't have any gaskets. They're a slip fit, so they're just a tight metal on metal slip fit. And this is spitting out little bits of black on this side, and there's little splatters of black on
you can see it run down
the motor. Yeah, on the exhaust and on the motor, and which means there's a leak basically. So if we ignore that, we're going to end up filling the room up with diesel smoke. So what I want to do is I'm going to pull the turbo off. I'll pull the exhaust out the way. I'm going to take this off, probably take this one off as well. So I have to take this and this off.
Don't you have to get these out as well?
Yeah, while I've got this apart, I'll get it all out on the bench. Now that I've got an oxy torch, I can just melt them. You can't be tight if you're liquid.
So what's gone away from the mothership? The injectors are heading to Brisbane?
Yeah, they're down in Brisbane. He phoned me until they arrived.
And who's that?
Frost Diesel. He's rebuilding the injectors. Yeah.
Okay, and the copper sleeves and the head will go to who?
Yeah, so there's another place in Brisbane called Engine Engineering, who they're going to replace the sleeves with new. They're going to, you have to cut the sleeve so the injector sits on it properly. You've got to cut a specific angle, so they'll do all of that. And you actually have to have a really, really finicky tool to push these sleeves in and then expand them when they're in the head. It's about $2,000 worth of tools just to do the sleeve. What's most important is they're going to do vacuum tests. So they'll put these sleeves in, and then they'll put the head under a vacuum or a pressure, and they'll basically find out, are they leaking? So more likely a pressure test, but they'll find out, is the head leaking? So they can guarantee that it's going to work. And at the same time, they're going to do a vacuum test on the inlet and exhaust valves, so they can tell me if the inlet and exhaust valves are all sealing properly at the same time. So we'll know that head's in great condition once we get it back.
I love it because it's endlessly rebuildable, right?
Yeah.
For the entirety of the work that you have to do on this,
Yep.
to fix that
Yep.
thing and to just be sure, how long is the total until it's ready for the monitoring stuff with you and Duncan to go through?
Yeah, so probably a month to a month and a half, because it sort of depends on how long bits take to get here, because I can't do anything until I've got the gaskets. So however long they take, and then there's probably a few days after that to put it all back together.
So you'll be doing the work on this, then there'll be a gap.
Yep.
Then we'll get the other launch jobs done in
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
Get them when the parts arrive, get that part done.
Yep.
Eventually finish all of that, and then Duncan's here for the monitoring.
Yes.
Alright.
Yep.
It's going to be a busy month or two.
Yep.
I'll leave you to it.
All right.
So just as an aside, I think I'm responsible because I wanted to see more of it. You know when you're doing something and you secretly go in your head, I'd really love to see that, the next bit. I did say that when you guys were digging in.
I think
it probably is my fault.
the rattle gun's just over there. I'll grab the sockets.
Oh, if I could, I would.
I do know that.
God, it's tidy in here. It's beautiful. So this piping is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It must be so exciting doing this, getting it done.
Oh, you haven't seen this? This is the wiring harness I built.
Yes, I saw it on camera.
All the wires disappeared into there.
Beautiful. I love that it's black against the cream.
Yeah,
I think that's very cool.
These are the cables I put in for the alternator.
I love the fact that you're starting to put lights in above.
Yeah. When you're stripping an engine down, you don't have to be that precise. You can basically get in there with some robust tools and just rip things apart. Easiest tool that I normally use is a rattle gun.
And off come the valve bridges. These allow a single rocket to activate two valves, either the exhaust or inlet.
Okay, push rods can come out. This gasket should be practically perfect because it's brand new. Get new ones of them anyway because we'll get them in the set, but either way we've got a spare. Right, now before I can take this cylinder head off, I need to take all the bits that hang off the side. So we've got a water jacket here, we've got the exhaust, and we've got the intake side over here, as well as a couple of little fuel pipes right down in the middle here, and also the fuel pipes at the back of the head here. So that's all going to come off. I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's episode, Surfshark VPN. We use VPNs every day as part of our engine monitoring system, so we know how important it is to have data security when you're sending and receiving files. You can do exactly the same at home with Surfshark VPN. A VPN keeps your location and download history private by encrypting all internet traffic. So if you're searching for gifts for your wife and you don't want her to know before the surprise arrives, VPN's for you. If you've found yourself living in one of the colonies and you'd like to watch something from the old country, Surfshark VPN allows you to browse libraries that are not available at home. So wherever you are on the planet, you don't have to be restricted by the man anymore. You can look at libraries from anywhere and actually sit there and watch things that are interesting rather than being told what you're allowed to watch. Think about that for a moment. Likewise, price discrimination. Like for example, we had to buy some gaskets for the Cummins. Locally, it's $1,200 to buy a head gasket set here, but we found them for $166 in America. That's the power of searching from a different location. With Surfshark VPN, you can say where you want to search from and you can end up with some dramatically different prices. And finally, if you're worried about your online security with things like credit cards, social security number, or even your email, Surfshark's able to scan your details across known breaches and help you stay safe online by letting you know what data has been leaked, when, where, and what you need to update. It's available on all platforms with an unlimited number of devices. So get Surfshark VPN using the link in the description below or enter the promo code Project Brupeg at checkout. You'll get 83% off as well as 3 extra months for free. So you got 3 bolts, one there, and then one down the bottom, and that's the inlet port for the cylinder head. I don't know if I can take the cylinder head off without taking the entire inlet manifold off. I'm hoping I can get away without having to take the whole thing off, and I'm hoping I can just crack these 3 bolts out, and then that's enough to allow the head to move. Get these out, and then when it comes time to remove the head, I guess we'll find out. Undoing the exhaust is a similar thing. First off is the V-clamp that holds the exhaust onto the turbo. Then these engines have a little locking tab that goes on each exhaust port that holds the nuts on tight to the studs. Get that out of the way, we can get our tools in there and rattle gun that manifold off. And loosen everything up with the hammer.
and we should be able to take the exhaust manifold apart. As this is a 3-piece manifold, I only want to take this back end off.
Normally I wouldn't pull this manifold apart, but can you see that black sort of stain on that join? That's slip fit join, so there's no gasket there, and the fact that there's black coming out means that there's a leak, and you can sort of see those sort of speckles on the engine as well. That's the engine spitting out carbon and crap back onto the engine itself. So we need to clean that up, need to get that exhaust fixed. Whatever's going on needs to be repaired, so might as well do it at the same time as pulling this head off. So we'll get that manifold apart so we can repair it. I don't know if I can strip it apart with it on the engine, so give it a go. That spray is a penetrating spray to try and make it a bit looser. Okay, it turns out I can pull that apart in place. It's not real bad. It's not actually that flogged out. No, I can see a wear line. There's definitely some wear there, but it's nowhere near as bad as I was expecting. Yep, I think we can do something with that. So I've sent exactly the same thing on this water jacket here. I don't know how they're joined in here. I suspect there's some sort of gasket, but we'll just see. But if I can get that off in place as well, that's another job I don't have to do mucking around with the others. In case you're wondering why I'm using spanners, ratchet spanners won't fit in here. There's not enough room to slide this manifold here. This should, in theory, come loose. I'm hoping. I don't know. Let's just find out. May not, because I've got head bolts in the way. So we might have to just wait until we've got these head bolts out. Fuel pipes need to come off. Between each cylinder head, you've got these 2 pipes that basically allow fuel that's in the fuel gallery here to go to the head over here and then return. So one of them is feed, one of them is return. So I've just got to clean out the paint that's in these screws, and we should be able to take those off. I'm not worried about getting shit inside the head because we're going to be completely cleaning that head out off the motor. A trick when you've got really tight screws like this, rather than trying to screw it and rounding it over, give it a couple of good wallops first. Don't try and twist it, just hit it, because all you're doing is breaking the connection the threads have with the head or whatever it is that they're screwed into. It's the same theory as an impact driver, only an impact driver tries to turn at the same time. We don't want to turn, we just want to knock the rust out or whatever it is that's holding it, Right, should be able to get those out now. This screwdriver's a bit crap, so, but look at that, easy as. They were way too tight before for that screwdriver. Oh, that screwdriver's not going to work on that one.
Bad thing coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, you fucking joking. Where did that go?
Number 4 cylinder. It went in number 4 cylinder.
Normally I'd say use a pipe spanner, but I can't actually get the pipe spanner in because these are so close to the head.
Time for the big toys. These head bolts are set at 280 foot-pound, so they're a wee bit tight.
Feels like there's an O-ring in there, which would make sense being a water jacket. There we go. Yep, O-ring. Right, just for a laugh. I'll do it, laugh.
Try not to show, this life's a show. Try not to glow. Way down below, it's a lot of woe. And that's the place where you would like to go. I've got cigarettes and brandy, which could come in handy. Losing my hand in these keys. Baby, don't refuse. Not true. But it's up to you to choose. I want you to stay true. What's right for you? No matter what we know what we'll ever say. Just find
3/4 rattle gun right now. Head starts. These heads should come off in theory, and there is a tiny little spot there that I can pry it. Hey, look at that. We have a cylinder head loose. Probably something similar at the back. Oh, there we go, look at that. Oh, this is a leaky cylinder head. So this is no doubt going to rip my little plastic gloves apart. So, time to crack out the TIG gloves. If I can't lift this, I'm going to use chain block. Okay, so it's loose. We'll lift it with a chain block. The important thing out of all of that is that I've got enough grease so that next time I TIG weld, something's catching fire. So we've been on a bit of a parts spree. We've got a lever block. So this is a 250 kg lift. It's absolutely tiny, so really, really small. But it basically has a ratchet handle, so it works just like a chain block, but on a very small scale. The reason I wanted this is because it's so physically small in this dimension here, means I can lift things above the engine really easily. We got this gadget here, which is various different sized tubes, and it's essentially like a bicycle pump but in reverse. It's a vacuum pump, and this is a 9 litre capacity. The reason I didn't use this to empty the sump of all the oil is A, it's 9 litres, it also hadn't arrived in time. This was $56 off eBay, and locally they had them half the size and they were nearly $150 to $200, so just wasn't worth buying one locally, and it was just worth waiting. But this is going to be a neat little thing for the engine room. I'm hoping that I can sort of drain all the cylinders with these skinny wee ones, poke them down the injector hole and vacuum out any last little bits of diesel in there, because I'm not convinced that I've got all the diesel out of those cylinders. And finally, the fuel pump. It's now a Cummins cream. You might remember what it used to look like in utility black. The right colour cream for the engine, and then wherever we had part numbers, I just put a bit of tape over it. I've got to take the actual sticky stuff off the tape, didn't come off cleanly. But this is going to go back on, so this is looking resplendent in its new colour. So I'll fit that hopefully in the next day or two.
Keeping an eye on things, are you? Are you snoozing? Because I was trying to do some editing. It's not working for some reason. We're not getting a lot of work done. She sits when I'm doing the editing because she loves hearing Damien's voice on it. I mean, she likes the sounds and the movement as well. I found her yesterday leaning up against the screen purring because what was on the screen was Damien talking about it, explaining something. It was very cute.
But we've got to be careful not to make this technique now.
Oh no, the cat's coming. You're on camera, baby. On screen.
You know, someone comes in later trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. I think it's much better to see back to that, and then that off, and then those two off to wherever.
So I need to build a little lifting bracket that helps me bolt the head to the lifting block. So real simple thing, just a flat bar with a chain welded to it so we can pick this head up. Now I don't have a piece of chain to use, so I'm going to make my own. Just a bit of 12mm bar. This machine can bend up to 16mm. It's something I made ages ago. Bend solid bar. I don't even know if I can use this, to be really honest. It's hitting the stairs. Let's turn this thing around. Right, so I'm hitting the stairs there and I'm hitting the boat stand there, so I've run out of space. You know what? Work within the limitations. I happen to have found these boat stands in this boatyard that we happen to be working in. I reckon we can do it there. That will absolutely do. Let's make it that long. But it's about middle, doesn't it? Middle. It's definitely middle there. I present to you a thing that's been made. Well, that on there's our little lifting block. And there we have special service tool number 3 so that we can lift that cylinder head off. I've done that on an angle so I get more room for the heads on those bolts. I don't know how much room they're going to need, so I just gave it as much as I could. Right, well this one's got pistons in it, so that's a positive sign. Okay, done. Alright, so what we're looking at basically is each black circle is a cylinder. That's essentially where the piston goes up and down and compresses the air, and then the diesel gets injected through that hole in the middle of each of those 4 valves. And then the black soot is basically the combustion, the diesel combustion, and then it goes out 2 of those 4 valves in each cylinder. So you've got 2 inlets and 2 exhausts per cylinder. Now that head should be relatively flat and there shouldn't be any big marks and garks and things like that in it. It's all looking pretty good, not seeing anything untoward. Rightio, so in each cylinder I've got a bit of green coolant. This is the anti-corrosion agent, that's the green colour stuff. Ignore that, I forgot to drain the coolant, so that's why it's basically sitting in those cylinders. Normally it wouldn't be there when you strip an engine down like this if you drain the coolant first. There's nothing in here that I'm that worried about. There's virtually no wear in the bore. You can feel those liners are in good condition. So basically if that was worn out, you'd feel a big lip right where it transitions from this nice shiny metal here up to the black carbony sort of metal here. You'd feel like a big lip. There's nothing there that I can even remotely feel, so I'm really happy with that. There's not much wear in these liners at all. That actually bodes well for the engine generally. You've got these recesses. There's 4 recesses cut into the piston. The reason you have those is because the piston comes right up to almost flush with the block here by the looks of this. I'm not 100% familiar, but basically it comes right up to the top of the liner, and then the valves themselves, come over there, you can sort of see these valves do stick out ever so slightly on the head itself. So the recesses here allow those valves to basically not be hit. And depending on what cam specs you're running, sometimes you can have the valves ever so slightly open when the piston's sort of coming up or going down, depending on what's going on with your cam timing and so on. That's all kind of irrelevant at this stage. What we're concerned with, there's nothing that's sort of hitting, there's no marks, there's no sort of anything abnormal, and in there I'm not seeing anything abnormal, so that's really good, bodes really well for the engine. Let's get a head gasket off, see what the condition of the block is like. Okay, there we go. Not seeing any damage on there that's a drama. Bit of paint and rubbish, that can all go. Everything there looks pretty nice. I'm pretty confident that I've got a screw down this cylinder here from when I undid the little fuel pipe that sits here, pinged down in there. There's two ways I can get this. I can maybe get a magnet, possibly, down there and see if I can zap it out that way. If I can't get it out with a magnet, I've got to pull that head off as well. It doesn't cost us any more to do that because when we get the gasket set, we'll have all the gaskets to do that. It's more just a time thing. So I just have to sort of figure out, you know, what's the best way of approaching this, magnet or taking the head off. Rightio, driving to town to get a magnet, one out, over pulling another cylinder head off the motor for now. So let's see if I can get anything. Please have a screw on the end of that. Oh, you absolute champion! You absolute champion! We are not pulling off a second cylinder head. Whoop. I've learned a few things about this engine that I didn't know before. We thought it was 350 horsepower. That was what we were sold when we bought the motor. 350 horsepower, big cam 3. What it actually turns out to be is a big cam 1, which is a much older engine. And it's not quite 350 horsepower, it's actually 220. Now, what does that actually mean for Brupeg? So with 350 horsepower, we've got plenty of grunt. We can cruise around at sort of half throttle and be making decent speed. If we really need to put the hammer down, we can actually go above hull speed with 350 horsepower. With 220 horsepower, which is what this engine has, we can't quite get to hull speed at full throttle. So we are underpowered. And the propeller that's on the boat now is probably actually a little bit too big for this engine. So it does pose a few challenges. We're still going to launch with this motor, we're still going to put it back together, it's still a good running engine, and we're going to steam around for a while with this engine and learn the boat. What it does mean is we're about half a knot below hull speed, so it's not as if we're, you know, massively underpowered or anything like that, but we do want to have an upgrade plan going forward. The things that we've learned about this engine though are quite interesting. So this is a 40-year-old motor, and in the course of its 40 years, a few things have been changed. The block has been changed from a big cam 1 to a big cam 3, so it's got a later model block on it. The cylinder heads, the central cylinder head, number 2, that's been changed, that's not original. I don't know what that's come off, but it's not an original head, it's got different castings and the numbers are different. Should we have known this when we bought the engine? Well, we were sold a big cam 3 at 350 horsepower, and I don't actually have any animosity towards the guy that sold me, because from the outside it looks like a big cam 3. And it came out of a truck that had 350 horsepower engine. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, we assumed that we were getting what was normal in that truck. We can alter this engine and lift it up to 350 horsepower by doing an in-frame rebuild, where we'd change the liners, the pistons, and change the camshaft, and therefore we can increase the horsepower. But by doing that, we're going to be putting this motor, this particular type of motor, the big cam 1, would be roughly at its upper limit of what horsepower it can do. The later model big cams can do up to 500 horsepower, and they're quite reliable at that, but the big cam 1s aren't reliable at 500 horsepower. So we're probably not going to do an in-frame rebuild on this particular motor. We're actually probably going to find a different motor and rebuild that. A later model engine is our goal. So yeah, it's something completely unexpected, but yeah, this motor is made up of a few other motors, parts, donors and things like that. It's underpowered compared to what we thought, but it's actually in absolutely brilliant condition. It's a beautiful engine, it runs beautifully, it starts really well, it runs crystal clear, the smoke is absolutely, like, there's no black or white smoke or blue smoke, it's perfectly clear, it's beautiful. So it's an absolute sweet little runner, but it's probably just a little bit small for what Brupeg needs.
Dan built a box out of the plywood that used to be in the bottom of the trailer we used for our sand. Then he took it into town and left it with the freight company to send it south. On the way home, he spotted a burn off. It's a bit of a good one, but now just heading home for a bit of a rest.